one of my New Year's resolutions was to make my home more homely, so I'm doing a bit of spring cleaning. I've done a fair bit of moving around. I don't want to like disrupt my setup completely, but like I've changed a lot of the things around my room. So this side of my room is a lot more animated, whereas like everything behind me is so empty. And I don't know, I'm regretting all of my decisions because my room looks so empty, but I've ordered some new things and I will be putting them up. They're not too expensive, so those of you who constantly worry about my finances, even though you shouldn't be, don't need to worry. I'm fine. And yeah, I'm I'm redecorating. Uh, but welcome back to another video. This is a bit off center, so I'm just gonna fix that. Um, welcome back to another video. This is gonna be a slightly more serious video. I don't know. I've been debating making this video for a while because I think it's really important, but at the same time, I don't want anyone to use my model for what I did when I, reported my father and then left my house as you know, the be all and end all model for how you should go about doing that. I think every single one of the videos that I've made in regards to that incident, I've tried to make very clear that that was, it's all very anecdotal and I'm speaking from one aspect, and that everybody's experience is different and everybody should treat their personal journey through whatever terrible thing they're going through as an incident, and that there can be differences in how they handle it. And there's no structure to this video. I did collect some questions for this video, but I will not be answering them in this video in particular. I've said video way too many times. I'll probably answer them in a separate one, like a part 2. For this specific occasion, I just want to cover what I went through and the importance of relying on local authorities when it comes to different kinds of abuse. Now there are, at least in terms of in a safeguarding sense, there are 4 different kinds of abuse. There's physical, there is verbal, there's sexual, and there's neglect. And all 4 of those are categorized under safeguarding as abuse, and they can all be legally handled. So just for your information, that's what you can do. There are different kinds of services that you can use. So there's the police, obviously. The emergency services cover the police, the ambulance and the hospital services, and the fire safety services. So firemen and all of that stuff. If you live near a coast, that also involves the Coast Guard. But I live in a big city, so that's not a thing that people use often here. In terms of other things that you can use the social services. If you just need someone to talk to, you can use specialized helplines like Samaritans, which was primarily set up to prevent suicides. But they also listen to smaller problems. I've personally used their line. This isn't a sponsorship at all. I'm just saying from my own experience, I have spoken to Samaritans. It's not something that I would constantly and frequently go to, but if you find comfort just talking to people, especially people who you don't know, personally, in this part of my life, I prefer talking to people that I do know, and I will occasionally take, refuge in strangers, but it's not often that I will call up a helpline like Samaritans. But if that's something that you would like to try or something that you would like to utilize, it's definitely there. I'm going to try and either put a graphic up so that you can see all the numbers, or I will leave all the numbers in the description below. I'll probably leave them in the description. I'll just pile them in there. If you are underage in the UK, you can use Childline, which is 0800? No, I don't know, but I'll leave it down below. I don't know the full line for Childline. It was personally not something that I used when I was a child, but it is something that I frequently suggest now for people who are going through, mainly children who are going through different things and they don't feel like bringing problems up to their parents or their teachers or their friends. They just need, a stranger to talk to that is safe. And, that's an outlet that's available in the UK anyway. I'm not entirely sure for other countries, but that's something that we have here. And yeah, and I want to talk about my experiences with different tools, especially while I was still within a vulnerable situation, a very dangerous situation, if I'm being completely honest, as well as outside of that and coming out of that. So, one of the first things that I utilized, which wasn't entirely my doing, because we had an incident in our home where my stepmother, who wasn't my stepmother for very long, she had attempted suicide in my house, and that had brought around the social services. And I had made it very clear to my father as well as to myself that I wasn't going to lie to the social services, because there were a lot of problems within my family, within my nuclear family as well as my extended family. So I had resolved not to lie, even though I was told many times to lie to the social services, because they were going to take all the kids away. That was the misnomer. And I want to say that the social worker that was handed to me, I've been told that she handled our case poorly, on retelling the story to people who are more experienced. But at the time, I thought that she was very, very, empathetic towards me. She was very sympathetic to my situation, and she wanted to find a solution. And I had told her everything from beginning to end, from the moment my mother had passed away in 2013 to me there in 2015, just talking about all of the problems that I had gone through, the arranged marriage, the physical abuse, the things that my father would do, our daily routines. There was, I say smaller things, but they weren't small things, like being fed food that had gone off, the heating never being on because my father would try to be cost efficient, but it was at the expense of us being freezing cold all the time, like to the point where we were wearing coats while we slept. We would get frostbite on our toes, things like that. And these weren't things that people weren't aware of. My entire family was aware of this. These were things that I would tell them almost on a daily basis. I was on the phone to an aunt every day, at least. And sometimes it was even more than that. And they would come over to our house, and they would see the condition that we lived in. So it wasn't even a case of me not handling it internally within my family. My family was fully aware of our situation, every single aspect of it, and it just wasn't handled. And so the way that it worked for me is that when the social worker first got involved, she interviewed each and every one of us individually without there being the presence of anyone else. So my father was interviewed individually, I think 2 or 3 times, because he just would not shut up, and he kept requesting more time with the social worker, and I feel like he did that to put off from me telling her everything. She interviewed each of the kids, you know, privately. It wasn't a case of just being left alone with her. We would be in different rooms, so technically we could still like hear what they were talking about. But for the most part, it was very private. When I spoke to her, the kids were in the house, but I had set them with my brother, who was an adult at the time, and he stayed in his room, but he was looking after them. And I spoke to her and I told her everything, and she gave me her personal number, even though at the time I don't think I had a phone that I could, because it didn't have a SIM card, so I could only use like the internet on it. So she gave me her number, and she gave me her email address, to contact her for whatever questions I had. I had asked her, like, because I've told you all of this, are you going to take all the kids away? And she told me quite explicitly, no, that the council doesn't have money for that anyway. And she said that even if in the extreme case where we did take the kids away, most likely they would be put in a home that's, similar to the culture that we already had in the family. So it wouldn't be something that would have been, completely different. And the social services, for the most part, tries to keep families together. So the first option, in an extreme case where my siblings would have to be taken out of the house, it wouldn't be immediately to send them to a family that they didn't know anything about. It would be a case of putting them with other family members, so within my extended family, which happened for a while. And I think to an extent is still happening now. But I'm not completely aware of that because I'm not in contact with most of my family. Disowned, it's nothing new. So that's what happened in terms of the social services. When my father made his attempt to actually almost kill me, and I made the report. I emailed the social worker. I emailed her the pictures of the bruising and the injuries, and she was the one who then called the police. Now, my experience with the police, different people have told me different stories, but my experience with the police, and these were the police in the Brent area of London, was absolutely immaculate. They had come, so I had contacted my social worker on a Saturday or a Sunday, which obviously she wasn't in office, so she couldn't sort it out immediately. But on the Monday of the return, she called the police. They came that day. They removed my father from the house first, and he was held for about 24 to 48 hours. I can't exactly remember, but he was held. And then I was taken by them, and I was taken directly to a police station so that they could find somewhere for me to stay. And they had told me, well, the first thing, it was a female police officer who had escorted me out, and the first thing she said to me, that what you did was really brave. People don't normally do this. Families don't normally say when there's problems in the families and something as terrible as this has happened. So thank you for doing what you did. What you did was, I'm gonna cry. What you did was really brave. So she reassured me in that way, which was the first, I had told my aunt that I was sending all that information to a social worker, and she had immediately fired back, telling me that I should tell the police that it was all a lie and none of that happened, and all the statements were emotional, and it was all fake. She had told me to do that. She had sent my uncle to my house to rat me out to my father preemptively before the police arrived, and he had sat me down and given me a lecture about how I've absolutely destroyed our family, and how all the kids were going to be separated and put into kafir houses, like disbelieving houses, and they were all going to grow up degenerates. And he told me, what your father's biggest fear was that his kids were going to be taken away. And I just looked at him and I had no words. I didn't feel anything. I was still in immense pain, which I told him, and he said, don't talk to, he kind of gave me this whole spiel about how I should respect him and I shouldn't talk to him like that. And it was just like, oh, why didn't you come to any of us? And I was like, I've been coming to you for 2 years. 2 years I've been seeking help. I've been telling you, take us out of this house, do something about this. I'm gonna fucking cry. This is not, nothing has been done about this. So this was my recourse. He also gave me I'm going off on a tangent, but I need to get it out. He also went off on a spiel about how I don't know how the world works, and how I'm immature, and what I did was immature, and it was going to be the downfall of my family. To which I said, so you think I'm too immature to make decisions about my life and know when I'm in danger, but I'm not so immature that I can't look after that I can still look after 5 kids. Like, that's what you think. And he said, you have experience in some worlds and you don't have experiences in the other. As if he knew anything about anything. I had already set it up with the social worker. The social worker had already told me, despite the fact that I had told her about everything that had happened, that the kids weren't going to be just thrown out randomly into the community, which he was trying to make a really strong case for. And it was just ridiculous. So if your family's telling you that, I have it on good authority that, first of all, the council does not have money to just be throwing kids out to foster homes, first of all, okay? And second of all, if that is your fear, they will always, first and foremost, try to keep families together. Again, because there's no funding, first and foremost. But second of all, because they believe in, not disorienting children. So, returning to my story about the police, they had treated me with the utmost sympathy, the utmost empathy, and care, first and foremost. They had taken me there. They didn't take my statement then and there. I was too emotional. I'm getting emotional now. Stop. This is an informative video. I'm not meant to be making people cry. So they didn't want to take my statement immediately because I was they gleaned. First of all, it was too late. It was like evening. I think it was like 6 or 7 o'clock when I was taken out of the house. Um, they had taken me to the police station. They were trying to find a place for me to stay, and they had expressly told me that if they could not find me a place to stay, if I could not have a roof over my head for that night, they told me, you can just stay in the police station. You can just sit, we don't have any beds, we don't have any comfortable chairs, but there's nowhere safer than a police station. Like, yeah, it's not a 5-star hotel, but it was somewhere safe, and they had offered that to me, and I'm never gonna forget that. Like, I am never gonna stop owing them, and I'm never gonna forget that. And every time someone has tried to drag me into a conversation, I'm gonna fucking cry. I am crying. Oh my god. Every time someone has tried to drag me into a conversation about how the police force is failing, I will always bring up the fact that the police officers that took me out of my home that day could not have treated me better. I was given the best possible service that I could have been given. Fuck. Oh. Sorry, returning. So they did manage to find me a homeless shelter, which I stayed the night in, and they had told me to return in the morning to give a statement. And for someone who was pretty uneducated about the world, I didn't really know what giving a statement meant. I'd never been to a police station before. I'd never had to file something with the police before. So I didn't really know what it meant at the time, and I think that maybe expressing that would have been a good idea, or having any kind of experience. I mean, my family weren't helpful. They were too busy denouncing me for what I had done, which was report my father for the crime that he had committed. So they were too busy denouncing me for that, to tell me what I actually had to do. My aunt, who was there at the police station while I was meant to be giving my statement, she had implored me, begged me, to not press charges against my father. And her exact words were, "Do you really want to testify against your own father in court?" And I regret not pressing charges against my father. Fully regret. 100% regret it. I should have done it. I shouldn't have let her get to me. And because I didn't press the charges, all the charges were dropped and everything more or less returned back to normal. All the kids, my entire family had put the statement that the abuse that happened in that house that day was a one-time incident, and my father only had a problem with me and he had not abused any of the other kids. And because there were so many people who vouched for my father, and I was the only one who had told the police that there was a lot more abuse going on, and I didn't press charges, there wasn't too much that they could do. I had also told the police that I wanted him to seek psychiatric help, but obviously they couldn't force that on him, and I mean, I didn't oversee that. I was told stories that he had gone to one session and the psychiatrist said that there's nothing wrong with him, which is bullshit. There's so many things wrong with him. But that's what I remember. I think I definitely should have handled that better, but that's all in hindsight, and I was a lot more ignorant about the process then than I am now. And that's what I want to prevent in future. I get a lot of questions. A lot of girls will contact me, a lot of, even some men will contact me and tell me about the different things, and they'll ask me for advice about social services and about the police and things like that. And they'll ask me about things in regards to like physical violence and abuse, because what my father could have killed me that day. What ended up being battery and attempted murder, which is what he should have been charged with and tried for and probably sent to prison for, could have ended in manslaughter or murder. And that's, these services are there to protect you. They're there for you to utilize and gain justice from. And, I'm not out for blood. Like, I'm not making this video so that the police break down his door today and take him away, because it doesn't really serve me to do that. The only reason that I would have, wanted him put away was to have a stronger case to get custody of my siblings, which is something I still want, which I can't really attain right now, but it's something that I see for myself in the future, I've said before that I don't have any intention of having children, because as far as I'm concerned, I already had them. They're just not with me. So very quickly becoming too heavy. But I get people contacting me about these things, and I remember all those feelings of not wanting to put my dad away because of, a meaningless yet significant bond of blood. I get it. I understand. But if he had attacked someone in the middle of the street like that, and they didn't press charges, you'd call them fucking insane. You'd call them crazy. If he had beaten the living shit out of a stranger, someone who wasn't me, someone who wasn't his daughter, whom he almost murdered behind closed doors, and that person that he beat the literal fucking shit out of did not report him to the police and did not press charges, you would call that person delusional, fucking insane. Just because you and this individual have a history, share blood, does not make them immune to the crimes that they commit against you, and you have a right, and even to an extent, a responsibility to have this person put to justice. And I'm not saying, they need to be, thrown under a bus and given a harsh beating, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you owe it to yourself to utilize the justice system for your own justice. And, it's something that, while it's not something that I, think about on a daily basis, it doesn't keep me up at night. It is something that I regret. I wish that I had done that, because at least then he wouldn't be anywhere near the fucking kids, And even if he was, he'd constantly be watched by the social services. He is currently, from what I've heard, and from what I've gleaned, because of the amount of incidences that have happened around him, and the things that he has done. But I would have that peace of mind, So utilize these systems. They're here to protect you. They're here to give you justice. And I think that I fully understand the nature of being in two minds about it. I get it. I've been through it. But it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. Because I think in our communities, we are made to think so little of ourselves. And we're belittled to the point that we don't feel as though we deserve justice. I was made to feel like that. I was made to feel small because a man almost killed me in my own home. A man who was older than me, stronger than me, had complete authority over me, to the point where I didn't even mind dying. Like, it was a thought, it was a strong thought that let him just kill me. Like, this is it, this is my way out. You deserve more than that. And that person deserves nothing from you. And while I'm saying this, I know that I haven't fully accepted that, and it's fucked up. Oh, man, I don't want to be crying about this. But I am. They say that grief is not being able to talk about an event while you still cry about it is a sign that you're still grieving, and I'm still grieving about it. Because I can't erase that pain. Not the physical pain, like the physical pain because of the PTSD sometimes comes back, but the pain of someone you love, someone you trust, someone you, in all instances, expect to protect you. The pain of that being uncovered and revealed to you as a lie. And honestly, I don't think I'll ever stop grieving about that. This was meant to be an informative video, now it's just a emotional plea. Make use of the justice systems around you. Don't be afraid to use them. Don't be scared. If you are in a home where you are being beaten, verbally abused, sexually abused, or neglected, there isn't food on the table when there could be. It's cold when it shouldn't be. You're being manipulated, screamed at, made to feel small. Don't live like that. You don't deserve that. And there is a better life waiting for you. A lonely one, I'll admit. It's fucking lonely. But it's better than that. I would trade 80 years of loneliness. I would buy that immediately if it meant I didn't have to suffer a day in fear. I've wasted so much of my life, so much of it, on meaningless, torturous bullshit. And I just don't want that for anybody else. The moment that a man, a woman, doesn't matter how blood related they are to you, the moment they touch you or fill you with harm, you do your utmost best to find a way out of that situation, because you don't deserve that. You only get this life, and then you're dead. Use your minutes wisely. Enjoy the minutes that you have. Sorry, I'm getting like worked up because I don't know how to express this in a more serious way. I'm being 100% serious. You deserve better. If you are suffering like that, you deserve better. I was suffering to the point where even if I was asleep and I would hear my father walking around outside, I would wake up. That's the level of fear that I was living in my own home. You deserve better than that. I deserved better than that. And I wish I had done it. I wish I had done it on the first incident when I was 11 years old. That's when I wish I did it. But in our communities, we are told, don't do that. Don't rely on the kuffar, on the disbelievers. Don't, share our dirty laundry outside. Nobody needs to know. You lie. If anybody asks you why you're sad, why, you've got marks, why you're upset, why you're like this, you lie. You tell them anything but what's actually going on. Because this is how we live. This is our way of living, in fear. Don't fucking buy that. You deserve better than that. But with that, I'm going to close out because this got way too much in too small a time. I started so happy, look at my room, look at this. Oh, it's a mess. But if you watched until now, thank you for joining me. And I hope in some way this was insightful and it wasn't just you sitting around and crying with me. I would prefer that it wasn't that. But thank you. And if you are in a terrible situation, I'll leave some numbers in the description below. Please do call those numbers. I'm not saying that you immediately call the police if you think that you can make a better plan. I certainly would advise that. But if you are in immediate danger, call the fucking police. Do not sit around and wait for anything. If you are in immediate danger, call the police. We don't wait for things to happen. I'll probably answer questions on Friday around this. If you have any, leave them in the comments below. I will be doing the part 2 for this on Friday. This is a lot. This is too much. I didn't plan for this to be a really heavy video, and it's turned out to be, and it's bothering me. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, links in the description. I can't right now. But I'll see you on Friday when hopefully I'm over this. So yeah, goodbye.